The mysterious homeless man that became an NBA superstar. Take a good look at this man right here. What if I told you that this man made it to the NBA even though he was homeless? You probably won't believe me. Because how's it possible for someone to progress from living on the streets to signing million-dollar contracts and ultimately becoming one of the NBA's biggest stars? Well, you're about to find out. You're watching Sportsman Pro, and this is the story of Jimmy Butler. Jimmy was simply a young, innocent boy growing up in one of the wealthiest communities in Texas, the last kid you'd expect to be homeless. But when he was barely 13 years old, his entire world fell apart. Jimmy's father abruptly left his family without warning. Jimmy's mother just couldn't bear to look at his face because he resembled the family's traitorous father so much. This is the reason why she eventually kicked Jimmy out of their house. Jimmy's road to NBA stardom was about to get more difficult than you might expect since he was a teenager trying to figure out how to live his life alone. He would simply roam the streets if he couldn't stay at any of his friends' houses, and anyone would find it brutal to be homeless in the Texas heat. Living that way compelled him to make a choice that would alter his life. He was always a big football fan, but he switched to basketball because he disliked the heat. He preferred to be inside the court, shooting hoops. Jimmy immediately signed up for basketball at Tomball High School, where he pledged to become a star athlete, even though he had no idea at the time how pivotal switching sports would turn out to be. Jimmy started playing basketball in his senior year, which helped him meet Jordan Leslie, who would become his new best friend. Little did he know, they were about to become family. Jordan would let him stay in their house for the night since his mother didn't mind until it became a week and then a month. Jimmy eventually found a permanent home, but more than that, he finally experienced support and affection. Jimmy realized that by letting a stranger into their home, this family was taking a risk and he couldn't let them down. Jimmy had hope for the first time in his life. Even though his basketball career was just getting started, he immediately established a goal that most young children could only imagine: getting into the NBA. Jimmy was dedicated. The journey towards his goal began strong that year when he committed to playing basketball for Tyler Junior College. He, however, was only defeating junior college players, and accomplishments on that level accounted for little to nothing. Jimmy understood that he needed to amp up his game and be recruited to a prestigious university if he wanted to reach his NBA goals. But then Jimmy realized his ambitions were even more challenging than he had anticipated because he already had a star teammate who was drawing the attention of the scouts to himself. Knowing he had to fight with his own teammate for attention, Jimmy started to question whether he would ever become a pro. Jimmy was aware of the intense competitiveness on the team and the fact that he couldn't afford to make any mistakes, especially because his star teammate, who had already committed to Marquette University, was drawing coach's attention. But Jimmy was aware that Buzz Williams, Marquette's assistant coach, regularly showed up there. So Jimmy was determined to convince him that they were choosing the wrong player. One day, Buzz came in and told him that if he ever had a head coaching job, Jimmy would be a player he'd want to play for him. Buzz wanted Jimmy to attend Marquette, but certain circumstances had to be met. One day, Jimmy's phone rang. It was Coach Buzz, and without visiting or even hesitating, Jimmy went to Marquette. It was official. Jimmy had reached his first objective and was on his way to Marquette University. But this was only a minor step on the right path. Jimmy understood that the stakes were higher, the competition was intense, and he couldn't be ordinary if he wanted to succeed. However, just like him, Jimmy's new teammates also wanted to make the NBA. And the hardest challenge of Jimmy's life came as a result of the fact that the man starting ahead of him was already a star player on the NBA's radar. Jimmy panicked because he believed he would never see enough playing time to prove his abilities. He thought there was no way he could beat Wesley Matthews, who was the starting guard for Marquette at the time and an NBA prospect. He started to feel as though his NBA ambition was slipping away from his reach, but Jimmy wasn't chosen for Marquette by accident. Coach Buzz made Jimmy work harder than any of his teammates because he recognized his potential. Jimmy frequently had to report to extra drills at 5:30 in the morning. Although the sessions Jimmy endured were cruel, they were all a part of Coach Buzz's master plan to get Jimmy into the major leagues. Buzz wanted to be the reason Jimmy achieved his dream of joining the NBA as he was aware of Jimmy's background and his aspirations. Ironically, though, all that extra work almost led Jimmy to give up basketball. Jimmy wasn't yet aware of the fact that being pushed to his highest limits would turn out to be his greatest blessing. He was anxiously awaiting a chance behind the scenes. At that same time, Wesley was having the best season of his college career as he was out there dominating his games. Every day as Wesley's popularity increased, Jimmy was compelled to raise the bar on his performance. Wesley entered the NBA later that year, leaving Marquette with a vacant starting spot. Everyone at Marquette was aware that Jimmy was working hard to take over as their new leader, and they have now given him the chance to do so. Even if his efforts have finally paid off, Jimmy wasn't confident he had what it takes to become the next Wesley Matthews. Jimmy only had a year to improve his draft stock because at the time not a single NBA franchise had even noticed or acknowledged him. Otherwise, his ambition would never come true. Then, as if on cue, Wesley returned around and gave Jimmy a life-changing talk. Wesley Matthews told him that he had what it takes to play in the league. That's when he started to take basketball seriously and thought that maybe he can be a pro at the highest level. Not just you're a pro, but multi-level kind of pro. That's where he wanted to be, among the best of the best. Jimmy realized it was now or never once he began to believe he could make the NBA. He entered that season with a drive, making game-winning baskets and averaging more than 15 points a night. Jimmy even led Marquette to back-to-back victories during March Madness. But no matter what he did, becoming a pro was still his ultimate dream. Jimmy decided to take a risk following his 2011 campaign and declared for the NBA draft. But that's when things started to become intense since everyone was about to find out whether Jimmy's basketball career was on its end or just getting started. The finest high school and college athletes in the nation were there, hopeful that their dreams will soon come true. Jimmy was aware of his rivals, but he still believed that eventually his name would be called. Little by little, one by one, the picks came in. Jimmy's name was never called as teams made their selections. He was perceived as a liability to the majority of the teams. He wasn't a freak athlete, he wasn't speedy, and he didn't put on wild highlights, so teams thought it was risky to draft him for what he could become. Nobody wanted to take that risk. Well, nobody until... With the 30th pick in the 2011 draft, the Chicago Bulls select Jimmy Butler from Marquette University. And just like that, he finally made it. Jimmy was officially an NBA player. After years of hard work and conquering his doubts, he realized that making the league was just a small step in the direction of something much bigger. He recognized how fortunate he was to have gone from being homeless to being a professional athlete. Jimmy Butler is an inspiration to many out there to persevere and never stop reaching for their dreams no matter the challenges thrown your way. What are your thoughts on this NBA superstar's life story? Let us know in the comments.